one of the big players in the small business space is a company called 8x8. They have a service called Packet 8, and we are fortunate enough to have Bryan Martin here with us, who is chairman and CEO of the company, and they made some big announcements today, and he will be sharing them with us, and I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say. And I don't want to steal his thunder, so I am going to let him do the honors, if you would join me in welcoming him to the stage. Thanks.
Thanks, Rich. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. So, and thank you, Rich. I appreciate that. Not stealing my thunder. It's something everyone tries to do these days. But I wanted to start out. We're such a young industry here, you know, and I've been with 8x8 since 1990, so I've been around quite a while. We've been doing voice over IP since 98, but such a young industry, there's not a whole lot of internet telephony jokes out there. I don't know if anyone's noticed. So I'm going to try one on you. Okay, so it's probably never been done in public before. Give me a little bit of leeway. So my friend Al is a telecom engineer, and he installed a new voice over IP system at his company. Everything went great. His boss liked it so much that he called Al into his office one day, and he phoned the head of HR right in front of Al. And he wanted Al to hear the glowing review for himself. So this was what was said over the phone. And as you might imagine, Al left the office that day feeling pretty comfortable. He thought, wow, I probably get a raise out of this, maybe a promotion, maybe some new responsibility. But when Al showed up to work the next day, the HR director came over to him and said, "You're fired, Al. Get your stuff and get out." And so it turned out the voice over IP system that got installed had 50% packet loss. And this is what the HR director heard. So you can see, and I'm going to talk a lot about quality of service, metrics today, that, you know, we all know what happens when a voice over IP call goes bad, but you can see voice over IP calls can go really bad if the dropout happens at the wrong point in the speech. So that's good. So I'm going to try another one. I'm going to double it up here, a little bit of laughter. Did you guys hear the one about the drug dealer who was setting up his auto attendant? I know you can't. There's no stump the buoy on this one. I know no one's going to guess the punchline. The drug dealer setting up his auto attendant had an outgoing message that said, "If you're calling to buy marijuana, press the hash key." All right. So seriously, those are the only two voice over IP jokes I know. So you're safe the rest of the talk. Maybe. It's always the thunder. So the pioneers in our industry, you know, way back, we're talking about the early 90s and into the late 90s, I guess. The pioneers in our industry, I think, probably would be pretty disappointed with where we are today. They really thought we would have changed how people communicate by now. So we, you know, I put it up here, and with apologies to the TMC team, because I know it didn't originate at their conference, but there was this notion of purple minutes, which I think really captures what we were talking about back then. And purple minutes are minutes that you cannot do on the PSTN. You cannot do high-speed video. You cannot do presence. You cannot do a lot of things on a PSTN copper pair. And so we said, you know, the way we're going to change how people communicate is by doing more purple minutes, and that's how we're going to make all of our money, as opposed to black and white, you know, which is the legacy, voice-only, cheap long-distance kind of minutes. And, you know, as you all know, the folks that are making money in this space, we're all doing a lot of black and white minutes. Now, at a great goal, my CTO asks me at least once a week, why do people hang up at the end of a phone call? I mean, we're out here selling unlimited minutes these days. It doesn't cost the customer anything more. It doesn't really cost the network provider, especially if they're on net minutes or traffic. And so why not just keep the line open at the end of the conversation, and if I need to talk to someone again, I just say, "Hey, are you still there?" And I don't have to dial again. I don't have to set up a new connection. And, you know, I think it's a good question. And if you go to the financial industry, the trading floors have had this type of connection for quite a while. They call it a squawk box, where they actually keep a live line open during the day, during the trading day, so that the boss can say, hopefully they're saying, buy EGHT. Everyone start buying EGHT. That's what we want them to hear. But all the brokers hear that, and the brokers can talk to each other in real time because they've got this squawk box open. And so I actually saw one of our banking customers implement this with one of our services. They just, during the trading day, conferenced all of their phones together. Each phone did a three-way call into the next one that did a three-way call. And I said, what in the world are you doing? And they said, well, we're implementing a squawk box. So, that's an area where we think we can start expanding into some of these functionalities that, again, I'm sure you can do it on a PSTN line, but it's a lot easier to do in our world. If you look at how kids communicate today, or you look at how kids do their homework, it's really starting to change how they use telecommunications, how they close that distance. Texting, I'm probably old-fashioned because about the only thing I can do is text these days, but texting is kind of the minimum for these types of sessions. And what you find, especially with kids that have the Apple laptops now, video is pretty common. They get the Hollywood Squares, 12 friends on the screen, and they're all doing homework together. They're not talking to each other, but they're there, and if they need to, they can talk to each other. But for the rest of us, especially in the business space, which I want to talk about, we're still using our normal black and white phone minutes most of the time. And I wonder why that is. And so, one reason might be Hofstadter's Law. Anyone know Hofstadter's Law? Hofstadter's Law says things always take longer than you think they will, even when you factor in Hofstadter's Law. So it's got a little recursive element there. And I think that's definitely applicable to this industry, where if you think about it, the first 10 years or so of our existence, we've had to spend so much time developing new technologies just to replicate what we already had 10 or 20 years ago. And so to replace those decades of old technology has taken us a while, and maybe it just takes a little bit longer to get there. But I think another problem with the notion of purple minutes is that they're a lot harder to use. The interface, by its very nature, becomes a lot more complex than the interface that we've all used to consume black and white minutes. So we continue to go with the easy interface as a user, maybe just because it's easier. And I ran across a video I want to share with you. If you look at the phone interface as a means of conducting our communications, the pace of human change has been extremely slow. I think it's amazing how long the basic kind of 12-button interface has been with us. If you look at how we dial cell phones, some of us, probably my mother-in-law excluded, but most of us have learned how to hit send at the end of the phone number. But even that took us 20 years to kind of make that change. And so I want you to watch this video. This is from the 1930s. It actually first aired in 1932. So we're talking more than 75 years ago. So take a look at this. We'll see if we can bring the audio up in the back here.
The local news of the week. At midnight Saturday, the telephones in this city will be changed to dial service, and all telephone numbers will be changed. Late this week, new directories will be delivered. Here are a few important suggestions for the use of your dial telephone. Before calling any number, first secure the number from your new directory. Then remove the receiver and listen for the dial tone. It sounds like this. That tone indicates everything is ready for your call. With the receiver off the hook, dial the desired number. For example, suppose you want to dial 23650. Dial each numeral in this manner, pulling the dial around to the finger stop each time. Be sure to allow the dial to freely return to its normal position. And this is the ringing signal.
Sound familiar?
If the line is busy, you'll hear this busy signal. Until Saturday midnight, please use your present directory and make your calls in the usual manner.
So there you go. So that originally aired in 1932, if you can believe it. And I especially like the part where they say, make sure you let the dial return to the normal position, the starting position, because the engineer in me is thinking, the poor engineers back at AT&T then were thinking, oh, you're going to mess up the number of pulses we send to the network and all of this. But I actually prefer the old busy signal because it's got that kind of game show quality to it. It's the bah, bah, you called and sorry, that person's already talking to someone else, you lost. So I actually think maybe we've gone a little downhill on the tones, and maybe for our Packet 8 customers, we'll bring back a setting for classic phone tones. But, if you think about cell phones, I mentioned cell phones before the video, we've actually gotten rid of dial tone completely. There's no tone to tell you that the phone's ready. There's actually a battery meter that is what most of us look at when we're on the road, and that's what we really worry about. So, it's been very slow. It's been with us a long time. But I don't have all bad news. And by implication, I personally believe it'll probably be with us for quite a while further into the future. We have made a lot of progress since about 2002, which is when we first got into the service provider space. We actually launched our first business service in 2004. And I think the advancement in the last couple of years, where we've actually gotten a lot more purple onto the network and into the user's hands than black and white, has been in the area of business communications, how businesses go about using their telephone systems and services. We've introduced a lot of new features over that period. We've introduced new capabilities. And I would be remiss if I don't mention, in this economic climate and this week we're going through on the markets, the industry has also introduced new price points to these business customers, and there's a lot of money to be saved. There hasn't been one type of business that's been impacted more than the others. Something significant here is the largest enterprise, with a multi-$10, $100 million campus solution that's based on voice over IP, has gotten access to a lot of the same features that a home office with one employee or a part-time, half-time employee has access to. And we've also seen, especially in the last year, because we started doing this in 2004, no one else was really there with us. There were a few people, but in the last year, we've seen a ton of competitors come into the space, and I think that's a good sign. We've seen some of the companies in the space in the last 12 months actually start making money. Hey, imagine that. We can make money doing this. So I think that's even better. And these are the guys that are affected. So the accessibility of these types of solutions, especially, the guys I deal with are the smaller size businesses, the smaller end of the spectrum, where there aren't unlimited budgets, where there's CapEx ceilings that they can't do anything about. The accessibility of these types of services has been incredible. And if you look at how a small business owner might save money off their monthly phone bills, if I can save a customer $20,000 a month, and think we're, in this Black Monday environment that we're in, that translates into almost $250,000 per year that stays with that business. And in addition, by the way, the business gets access to better services and features. And that's making a big deal, I think. That's a huge dynamic that's going on in the space right now. Our industry, as well, is able to provision these services instantly. We can deploy them anywhere in the world. We don't worry about whether you're on our footprint or off our footprint or any of that old stuff. We just need a high-speed internet connection. And fortunately, we live in a country where, I hope high-speed internet access is a political priority, if nothing else. I hope the next incoming president has a lot to say about that. The advance in the space is, of course, we're moving business communications from the private networks over to the public internet. Every one of my customers talks to as to whether the public internet can support business quality voice. And this is a big debate right now. There are many people in the space, and many of them showed up after, you remember the week-long Skype outage last year, and some businesses were affected by that. Many people say you have to have a dedicated or a private data connection in order to have business quality voice. And I've got news for those people. Number one, those dedicated connections have issues too. You can trip over a router in the phone closet or the data closet just as easily as you can a public internet connection. And on the topic of voice quality, I think the answer is definitely yes, but I'm going to qualify that with you need to monitor. You need to proactively be monitoring those connections. I've got 12,000 business customers today that we monitor each and every phone call they make. We look for quality issues, and that's some of the data I want to share with you today. So this data was collected, in the last 30 days. Again, we've got a lot of this available for analysis. It was collected from customers of ours, both residential customers and business customers, that are at arbitrary and, most importantly, self-installed locations on the internet. So these are not 10 customers that I went and jury-rigged their data connection. This is people that installed the service themselves. If you remember, I said 8x8 had a long history. We used to sell customer premise equipment, so we still have some of that legacy with us. And we have the ability in our endpoints to, at the end of every call, measure the quality of the call, look at the network parameters of the call, transmit that back to our data center, and actually we write just like we write a record to bill the customer at the end of the month, we write a quality record for that call. So the data we're going to show here, I don't have a drum roll effect, I'm sorry, is from a representative sample of about 100,000 customers. Over the sample period, the data here was from 16.7 million calls. And again, we have both residential and business in here. Businesses tend to have better data connections than residential customers, but they also have local area network issues. So there's core router issues, there's some really bad small business LANs out there, and they also have multiple calls running at the same time, which you don't seem to find in the home. So here's the data. What we found was over this sample period, 16.7 million calls, 84% of those customers that were included in the pool had all of their calls in the green box there, toll quality or better. 9% of those customers had at least one call during the sample that we would classify, for lack of a better term, as cell phone quality. It means during the call, at some point, there was a little bit of packet loss, there was a little extra jitter, you might have heard some warbling that we weren't able to conceal, but definitely, I have AT&T, so cell phone quality to me is maybe different than it is to you, but cell phone quality for those customers. And we had 6.8% of our customers who had one or more calls that we would consider unacceptable for business use. A lot of packet loss, big dropouts where you may not be hearing the other side. And so the conclusion from this data is that the public internet appears to be ready for real-time business communications about 85%, for 85% of the sampled customers at their locations. 15% of the self-installed customer locations are going to require some tweaking or improvement to get that business quality voice on each and every call. And what this means, in my opinion, is that every person out there, every business, every consumer should be able to get access to business quality voice. 85% of them are going to have to do nothing in order to get that access, and 15% of those customers are going to have to do a little work. So I would say that data, given the advantages you get with the public internet side of being able to provision immediately, being able to use the service from anywhere you are, outweighs the little bit of headache we have to do for the 15%. And I can tell you in our provisioning group and our support groups at 8x8, this data matches up with about what we see with new customer installations. So we think we have to work with about 15% of our new customers to get them up and running. So what this brings us to, I think, is another advantage of what we're doing today for these businesses, and that is the actual installation process and the training process of getting the employees to use these new services has been improving dramatically. So if you think about the old days, you were a small business and you would either call the incumbent Bell in your area or you would call the dreaded phone guy. This is the guy that charges at least $100 an hour, and if he's there a minute, he charges you a quickie hour. And the only way to get a phone system installed, the only way to get a phone system maintained was to call the phone guy. And a lot of people still do this. But in the past couple of years, the technologies are getting there where the phone guy expertise might not be needed anymore. And so we just wanted to show you a quick example and follow up on one of the keynotes yesterday from Microsoft. We actually announced this morning a partnership with Microsoft with their new response point service, and we're marrying the response point systems with Packet 8 Business Service. And you'll remember, if you were here yesterday, you heard about the magic blue button that's on the phone. And so when we first saw these phones coming out, we thought, man, that's a great way to set up, a PBX. It's a great way to make your phone system such that any business owner could install it. But the problem is, how do you actually then carry that simple paradigm over to connecting the phone system over to the PSTN? And so we've invented a new way to do that with our announcement today. It involves a very small, it's actually under the table here, but it's about a box this size. The box is free, by the way, so we kind of get rid of the expense associated with doing this as well, where you connect your response point system right into, we're connected into the convention center internet, which if you've been using it wirelessly, is not fantastic. But I've got a couple phones up here. Now, I tried to get Bill Gates to take a call from me, and I have to say he turned us down. So I had to find another Bill that we could call. You guys hear that? Call Bill.
Bill. Forwarding call. Yes, hello, Bill Clinton here.
Hey, Bill, it's Bryan Martin at 8x8. How are you?
Brian, how's everything going?
It's going great. So I'm out here in L.A. today. We're showing a new phone system where to call you, I just have to tell the phone, call Bill.
Very good. I like that. Hey, you don't have one of those phones that says call Monica and I can get a hold of her right away?
Hey, Bill, we're actually in a room with a couple people, so I think you meant Hillary there, right? Call Hillary?
Well, how about Jennifer or maybe Paula?
Well, Bill, I'm in a room with maybe a couple hundred people. So
I'm sorry. I'll be serious for a second. How about 900 numbers? Does it do anything with that?
Yeah,
I've got 911 when I need to get some in an emergency situation.
Yeah, it supports both 911 and 900, so we're good there too. Hey, I read in the paper today you might be there with someone else as well.
I sure am. Hold on just a sec. Let me see if I can grab him. He's over there. What's he doing? He looks like he's playing hopscotch. Hold on. Hey, W, come on over here. A friend of mine wants to speak to you. I'll be right there. Hello.
Hey.
Who's this?
Mr. President, this is Bryan Martin from 8x8.
Bryan Martin, 8x8. Let's see, 8x8, that would be 56, right?
Not exactly. So we're doing a demonstration of a new phone system. It uses VoIP.
VoIP. Could you spell that for me?
Yeah, VoIP. So, Mr. President...
Hold on a sec. I got to get there right. How do you spell it again?
Why don't you just call it internet telephony? It might be easier.
Yeah, easy for you to say.
So, Mr. President, in the White House, how's the phone system over there?
Well, I'll tell you what, I've been here for 8 years. And I still haven't been able to figure out this fandangle system.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I can actually remember a couple times making the wrong calls.
Is that right? Hopefully not to any world leaders.
Well, I'll tell you, the first time actually was during my first term.
Uh-huh.
And I accidentally got a hold of that Kim Ping Pong, from North Korea.
Yeah, the president of North Korea.
Well, anyway, I went and ordered a poo-poo platter, and 3 weeks later, I found a brown bag full of dog-a-doo on the White House steps.
Oh, it's terrible. This is just
so I must
terrible.
order the number 2.
So, any other bad calls you've made?
Sure, I had one more. Actually, I called up my buddy there from Russia. What's his name? Mr. Vanilla Pudding.
You mean Mr. Vladimir Putin, I believe.
Boy, you're good. I had to hire you. Get in my cabinet. But anyway, I accidentally hit the wrong number, and I got the speaker of the House here. What's her name there? Bella Lugosi.
Yeah, Speaker Pelosi. I think we get the idea, Mr. President. So,
yeah, okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, we couldn't arrange either president to be with us, so I wanted to get a round of applause for Mr. Gary Levitt, the Wizard of the Stars impersonator in Boston, Massachusetts. Hey, Gary, thanks a lot.
Well, thank you very much, and I'll tell you what, I got to get going because it's just the start of the Three Stooges Marathon. It's going on right now as we speak.
Okay, Mr. President, thank you.
All right, a little B-A-B, B-A-C, C-I, sicky-si, C-O, so, sicky-si, so, C-U, so, sicky-si, so. I'll take care now.
Bye-bye. Tough to get that guy off the phone. So, I don't know how you thought about that voice, but, it sounds pretty good to me, and that's over a convention center internet, which is about some of the worst internet out there, in my opinion, having been to most convention centers. So, even though we're sending these calls over the public internet, and you got to remember this is a business, so the business needs need to be taken care of. Their security becomes an issue. Privacy of calls certainly becomes an issue. Even basic functions like E911 is an issue. I can tell you that for our business customers, we actually route about 50 911 calls a day over that customer base of 12,000 plus businesses. So I know I've only called 911 once in my life, but apparently a lot of people call 911, and that becomes a big feature. It's also incumbent upon this industry, I think, to support what's going on in Washington with the CALEA mandates, the things coming out of the FCC. Certainly all of our states and communities are hurting for money, so I think the taxes that this industry is being assessed. If you accept the fact that telecom is one of the most taxed services that's ever been invented, it makes sense to me that we need to be paying our fair share there. And going forward, I think there's a lot of advanced services you get out of it's the response point adapter is what we call it, things that we're working on like auto location of 911 locations. And so I think we heard yesterday in the Microsoft keynote how important software is, but as long as we have that telephone interface as the basic interface, I think you're going to see hardware as part of these solutions as well. Hopefully a smaller component, and hopefully a component that's getting cheaper and cheaper. My box is about this big, and I am always envious of Cisco because they can still charge $10,000 for a box that big. We give ours away, and I think that's the trend in the industry. So given all that, I didn't put Gary's picture up. That's what Gary looks like. I'm sorry. Given all that, I think it's no wonder that we're beginning to see these services roll out in retail. 8x8's been selling in places like Office Depot, Office Max, Staples. We went live with this summer on their website, and we're in a couple of their stores right now in a trial. Microsoft has had a good response out of Costco. And so, to give you an idea, for 8x8, about 14%, 1/4 of our new business sales in the June quarter came through our retail partners, and that's actually a big sliver of business, and it's getting bigger. So I think that's an exciting, trend. And I think going forward, you're going to see more of that. I think you're going to see less of the phone guy and more of kind of this self-installed model that we've hopefully convinced you of today. More of the public internet, less of the private data connections. So to conclude, in the current recessionary climate, when I wrote this, it was 2 weeks ago, so it wasn't as bad a recession as it is now, but it could probably read in this depression climate. I think we're all living through an unprecedented moment in history, maybe not as bad as the Great Depression, but certainly with oil, inflation, housing, credit affecting, all aspects of American business, we have a perfect storm that I'm afraid will be with us for quite a while, based on, my guesses. But this business cycle we're in, it's having a tremendous impact on businesses, and especially the small business customers that our industry serves. I had a conversation with one of our longtime customers just 2 weeks ago. He's a mortgage broker. He's based in Glendale, California, not too far from here. In March, he had 12 employees in an office in Glendale. As of 2 weeks ago, he has 3 employees, and he just told his landlord that he can't afford the office anymore. And so it's a common story, it's a recurring story, but it's actually a story that our industry is also helping alleviate, because what he was able to do is unplug, the 3 remaining employees unplugged their phones from the office. They moved back into their home offices, plugged the phones back in without any disruption to the business, without any new equipment needing to be purchased, and my mortgage broker in Glendale is still in business today because of that ability. And so that's an example that's out there, the climate we're in, where we're helping these businesses make a seamless transition from a fixed office environment to more of a distributed, a lot of times home office environment. So I think it's incumbent upon our industry to reach out to the business community, to show them the impact that these technologies are having, to share the stories of my mortgage broker in Glendale, so that they know that these capabilities are available, so they know the effect and impact these technologies can have on their businesses. And I'm not going to stand up here and be embarrassed to tell you that we should also be letting them know the financial advantages. I don't think the long-term strategy of our industry is about price, but I think in this climate we're living in, I can tell you that 8x8 has certainly changed our marketing message to these small business customers to be exactly about price. First thing we tell a prospective customer is, let's see your phone bill, and let me see how much money I can save you the rest of this year if you sign up for some of our services. I also want to say, if you're a business owner or a representative of a business that's here at the show, while you're here this week, get a quote from me. Get a quote from all my competitors that are here at the show. You need to understand there are substantial savings to be had, and I think it's business malpractice in this environment not to be seeking out communications alternatives to your current solutions. That, literally I gave some examples of savings of tens of thousands of dollars a year. If you're a large enterprise, we're talking millions of dollars a year. And, that's going to make a big difference in your business immediately, and it'll make a longer-term difference in your business with the features and functions and services that you get access to. I'm always amazed when I do sales calls how few business owners actually know what they're paying per month in telecommunications bills. Sometimes we even pull the IT department in, and they don't know. It's just overlooked by small business as a cost of doing business. There's nothing you can do about it. So I encourage the business owners, pull out your phone bills when you get home, take a hard look at them. And like I said, implementing these types of technologies can be a game changer for your business. I think it's important to note that many of these new technologies are not about selling your business something new. We're trying to save your business substantial money that right now is going out the door to things like legacy CLECs, incumbent ILECs, who are all too happy to have you as a high-paying customer forever and resist any form of change other than maybe increasing your price once a year. If you're in the industry, please join me this week in this educational push and outreach, as Microsoft did this morning and as we're doing in the future, and let's do our part in the industry to turn the U.S. economy around. Thank you for listening. Have a great week at the show.